Hello, my name is Dorothy Rosen. I'm a goldsmith and I love to cook. So today, it being a little bit before the holidays, I decided to share one of my favorite recipes, which is also very much a family tradition for us during the holidays and also for other festive occasions. So I wanted to tell you about Gravlax and how to make it. Gravlax is it's a Norwegian style of preparing salmon, and really originally it was a way to preserve it. Many of our most delicious recipes come, such as pickling and curing and all that stuff, fermenting, came out of the notion of wanting to preserve things. So Gravlax originally it literally means buried logs, salmon, and unlike smoked salmon, there's hot smoked salmon and cold smoked salmon, and then there's Gravlax. So not smoked at all, not hot or cold. Gravlax is done by way of curing. Very originally, it was done with also a fermentation, but that's no longer the case now. Basically, to make a long story short, what happens for Gravlax is you create a brine with salt and sugar and spices and dill, and let that brine do its work on the salmon, which preserves it and makes it delicious. So I am in my kitchen. This is my kitchen, my beautiful kitchen that my husband gave me for my 50th, and this reno. And so I'm going to show you some pictures, and then we're going to get to my countertop in a second. So let's see, 1 second here. Gravlax is, so it starts as salmon, like as in so. So to start with, you need two sides of salmon that are matching ideally. So if you can get your fishmonger to cut you one salmon and debone it, and so that you have a bookends. Because you're going to end up putting those two bookends together and making like a sandwich. So ideally you have bookends with the skin on, ideally. And that's what you do. And choose different assets. So the next thing you're going to do, this is very irritating. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to get your spices ready. And the spices, I'll put this... I'll actually have to put like a recipe somewhere, maybe on my website. I often do write about food on my website. So, or message me if you want to know the proportions. But first you're going to make get your spices ready. So I start with whole peppercorns, whole allspice, and whole coriander. And I use a mortar and pestle, as you see in the image, to crack those and make them smaller, but not into a powder. And then I add to this salt and sugar. The original recipe I was given by my mother had equal parts salt and sugar, but I vary that. I find that it's better to have less salt and more sugar. And because I live on this, I have certain health things that I worry about or care about, and so I use coconut sugar actually, which works just fine for this. But brown sugar otherwise it's also good, and coarse salt. And so after you've cracked the spices, you then add the salt and the sugar into your mixture to make this kind of spice pack. And the next thing you're going to need is a whole lot of dill. The amount of dill I use the salmon that I just cured, that these pictures are from, is more than 2 kilos, 2.25 probably kilos. And I used 3 big bunches of dill. 2 would probably do, but I use a lot of dill in mine. And I then proceed to chop this dill fine, and I chop the stems as well, because as you'll see, this is just to give flavor. So the next step is that you start putting this spice mix on either side of this. Here's, you see it on one side, and then you also put it on the other side, and then add all your dough. So this is going to be like, the dill part will be thicker than your salmon, likely. And you make the sandwich, so the spice mixture on either fillet sides, then pack the dough on it really thick, then you close the two, and you make a sandwich. So salmon, dill and spice mixture, salmon, that's your sandwich. And you stick that into a plastic bag. I'm sorry, it's very unromantic, but it's a plastic bag. If you have a vacuum seal, one of those, I forget what they're called, those vacuum seal things that sucks the air out of a plastic bag and seals it, that's ideal. I keep thinking about getting one, but I also keep thinking of reducing my plastic usage, so I'm a little torn on that department, and I would only need it for this. But I actually I either ask my fishmonger to give me long, skinny bags that they use for fish, even at the grocery store at the fishmongers, or I find a large Ziploc bag, and I seal it as tightly as I can, and then I fold it over a couple of times, and I kid you not, I duct tape it. It's really important that this is sealed extremely well. Oh, and before I do all of that, I stick a straw in the bag. This is kind of gross, but it works. And I suck the air out because there shouldn't be any air in there. So you make the sandwich, stick it in a plastic bag, suck the air out, seal it real tight, duct tape it if you need to. And I do 2 layers of this procedure because history has shown that the one doesn't sometimes suffice. And then you stick this in your fridge, ideally on ice, and you put weight on it. So if you are a milk drinker, put milk cartons on it. If you can put cans of tomatoes, you can put your Prosecco, whatever it is, make it heavy and weigh that whole package down. And then every 24 hours, you turn the package over because the liquid will go on the bottom. So every 24 hours, or depending on how long you're gonna cure your salmon. I like curing mine 5 days. 3 is really sufficient. If you cure it 3 days, turn it every 24 hours. If you're going to cure it for 5 days, you may as well just turn it every... If I cure it shorter, I do it in the morning and the evening, and if every 12 hours. And then if I cure it for 5 days, then I turn it at the same time every day. Like every night before I go to bed, I turn it every 24 hours. So you do this for a few days, and then it gets very messy because now it's time to open your Gravlax. And I had my husband take some pictures when I opened this yesterday because we were invited for dinner, and I brought this salmon. And so what it looks like is like this. The salmon will have a different texture now, and you'll see your dill is quite bright green, and the brine will kind of run out of your bag as I just slice it open with a knife, and I then just gently with my hand or a paper towel I just swipe off the dill and the spices, not totally clean, but till it looks about like that. And let's see, do I have another picture? Nope. So that's kind of where we're at here. And I'm going to show you, I have one here. So I cut some of this already yesterday. Let's see, I'll show you. By the way, that's my studio. There's my sink, and that's my studio right out there. So that's how close my studio is to my house. Oh yeah, here's a cake. I was halfway through eating this when it was time to come on. That's a grain-free, low-carb cake, and that's very much, that's on my website also, actually, that recipe. It's the delicious one. Okay, so here we have a piece of salmon. Ditch and chilling. Well, hello, Ditch and chilling. So here's the Gravlax. And it's already been somewhat sliced here. So also this is the mortar and pestle. You can use any kind, of course, but this is, you hear that kind of grinding. And I'll show you this now. This is it's not very attractive, but I keep everything in these glass jars. This is the sauce that I make with it, which is made from mayonnaise, mustard, maple syrup, and dill. So once you have your salmon cured, you then slice it, and yes, it does get messy. You slice it on an angle like this. Not a very good slice, of course. Like so. It's a little better. As thin as you can manage. And you then serve this. So I lay it out kind of, you know, in this overlapping pattern, just like you would get it in a smoked salmon. This is very oily. You can see my hands are very oily. And you just keep on going on that platter and then serve this with, let me see, where are my favorites? Serve it with, like this, with red onions, freshly cut, it's really important, lemons and capers. And that sauce I was talking about. So that's Gravlax and how to make it. And if you have any questions for me, just, you know, send me a message and I'm happy to explain things further. These things are always very short. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. And thanks for visiting me in my kitchen. And I'm going to eat the rest of my cake now. So you take care. Have a great week. I'll talk to you next week. Bye.